Right. Just hit, got it.
Okay, thank you all so much for being here. I am Janice Gentry and I'm with Valley Program for Aging Services, and I really appreciate you all being able to take the time to be with us today, and you're having DeCoy, founder and owner of Cardinal Care LLC, is a licensed occupational therapist with nearly 30 years of experience working in various rehabilitation settings and with a wide range of diagnoses and challenges affecting everyday living. Amy has additional training in stroke, brain injury, dementia, home accessibility, low vision, and wheelchair seating and positioning. She has been a certified trainer through the Positive Approach to Care philosophy with renowned dementia expert Tifa Snow, and has held the certified aging in place specialist or CAPS credential awarded by the National Association of Home Builders. Amy is a member of the American Occupational Therapy Association and a past board member of the local nonprofit Brain Injury Connections of the Shenandoah Valley, having served 6 years. So thank you, Amy, for being here with us today.
And here's some tips and tools for your journey as a very informal. Raise your hand or get my attention, and we can answer as we go. If it's something that I think I might answer later on, I'll just point that out. And if it's something I think that would be best if we talked about afterward, then I might have something extra special that I want to share with you. So I'll let you know that as well. But I am very informal, so we can communicate however is best for you. If you want to spread out in any way, feel comfortable to move. I guess we did figure out, we were struggling with figuring out how to move the screen, but it's adjusted a little bit. So I hope everybody can see. All right. So today, if you are looking to be and if you were just in the keynote address, that was wonderful, wonderful. I loved it. So I agree with so much of what he shared. Life is a journey and it can be stressful. I have had enough stress in my life and along my own journey that I just tend to want to be more relaxed about things in general. So that's the way you're going to find this session to be. So everybody can just take a deep breath, relax, and we're going to enjoy the moment. Thank you for coming. I am very, very glad you're here, and I'm very grateful to BPAS for inviting me to share today. And I hope that what I share meets a need that you have today. That's my intention. An occupational therapist. In January, it will be 30 years. And in some ways it feels like that's just been a couple of weeks. And in other times it feels like maybe it's been 60 years. I'm not sure. But I love it. I love what I do. There's never been a moment that I wanted to be anything different than an occupational therapist. So this is truly my passion. And as in my introduction, you heard a little bit about my certified aging in place specialist credential. That's that just was an addition to what I know from my background as a therapist and working with accessibility, communicating with builders and architects and design, and being aware of equipment that's available on the market that can help. I have a mobile clinic, a mobile outpatient clinic, which is called Cardinal Care, and I have a booth, some of you I've talked to already, over in the other room. And we can talk about those things. Oh, I don't know what's happening. So if you want to come by that, there are some things there that I can share with you that might help with your particular situations. I am the mother of 2 adult daughters that I'm very proud of. One is also studying to be an occupational therapist, and one just started her medical residency, so she's going to be a doctor. So I feel like I'm going to be well. I also have out in the county, in Rockingham County, I have a small agritourism business. And last year I opened that as also because of my passion. I have a friend who is in a wheelchair, and he and his wife have a little girl. And he's never been able to go to the pumpkin patch with his little girl. And I saw pictures in 2020 of mom and grandparents at the pumpkin patch, but dad was not there. So I decided we were going to try this thing. So we grew 2 acres of pumpkins last year, and they were one of our first visitors, and they came and they had a picnic, and they just had a wonderful day. So we had lots of groups come last year. This year, unfortunately, we're shifting gears. We're trying to figure out something else. But hopefully next year we'll be back up to speed. And that's just another passion of mine in terms of helping folks navigate whatever is in front of them in as positive a way as possible, similar to what our keynote speaker talked about. So this is kind of the basis today for what I'm going to share with you. It's a simple stool, right? Nothing special. When you were growing up, when you had children or grandchildren, and they were visiting you, or they were living in your home, and they were this tall, and they needed to brush their teeth in the bathroom sink. What? Tell them that they couldn't do it, right? That they weren't old enough to do it, or they weren't capable enough to do it. You gave them a stool. Mm-hmm. So a stool as a tool. So say that with me. Stools and tools. We're going to talk about lots of stools today. So when you gave them that stool, they could reach, they were tall enough, they could do the task that they wanted to do, and they could feel really good about it because they did it. That's along our journey. It might be tools and stools for us. It might be tools and stools for our loved one, but regardless, it's helping us along our journey. And it's empowering us. It's letting us do what we need to do, what is important to us, so that we can feel like we are a valued person. For some reason, when we're little people, we think it's really cool to have these things that make us feel big and grown up. And then we live our life, and we use an alarm clock to make sure we get up on time. We use a map. We used to use paper maps. Now we use a GPS to help us get where we're going. I write a grocery list and a to-do list and a list for every other thing that I need to do. And some of us, we have alarms in our phone to get us where we need. We have all kinds of these things that we approach as tools and stools. And then as we age, or something happens in our brain, and if we're using a stool, feel like we are not good enough anymore. We can't do it like we used to. And it's something negative that happens, but I don't want it to be. I want you to continue to think about using all those things that we've used forever in a different kind of a tool or a stool. But it's going to allow us to be able to be as independent as we can, and as strong as we can be, and as well as we can be to face whatever is on our journey. That's the whole idea about today. So today I'm going to teach you about 7 things. So when you leave here, you're going to have 7 new things in your toolbox. Okay? So I don't know, how long did we do this, Marissa? An hour? Okay, so I'm going to go pretty quick. And I tend to talk fast. My 8th grade teacher told me if she ever wanted anybody to give a speech in a short amount of time that was understandable, she was going to call on me. So here we are. Thanks. I don't think that that's the way it was supposed to work, but that's the way it's worked out. So we're going to start with body mechanics. And I would bet that all of you have heard something about proper body mechanics. Everybody heard about this, how to lift with your legs. Mm-hmm. Well, in my world of therapy, nurses and nursing assistants have a much higher rate of back injury than occupational therapists and physical therapists. So it could be argued that it's because they lift more people every day than we do. And maybe that's true, I don't know. But what I do know is that when I work with nurses and certified nurses aides, they learn differently than we. So I'm going to show you today, and if you want to get up and practice with me, please feel free to. There's space, we can move around. I want to show you a proper lifting strategy. So this is an image, a visual, showing that if you hold things away from you, they're heavier. They are not within your point of gravity and your base of support. And you can experiment with this. Do is we have reachers like this. And if you pick up something that's far away from you with a really long reacher, it weighs a gazillion pounds. But if you use a short, hold it closer, suddenly it's not as heavy. And when you are helping your loved one move about, if you're helping your loved one roll around in bed, or you're helping bathe or wash or dress. So you want to, as an example, I can plan on this, but let's just go for it. I want to put my feet close to it. I want this to become part of my body space. It's not far from me, it's near. So if you are, this happens sometimes in the nursing world and in the therapy world. We have this bubble, our bubble of our personal space. To do things like this, you just have to share your personal space with somebody. You just have to get in there and be really friendly. And so you're going to get close to it, and you're going to hold it close, and you're going to squat, and then I'm going to lift with my legs, okay? And my back is straight and flat. Now, if I were going to pick something up off the floor, I would do it the same way. I'm going to get close to it. I'm going to have it down here by my feet. I'm going to squat. I have to use my, I'm going to keep my back flat. And when I do that, your bottom actually sticks out. What we use little phrases, you're going to duck butt. When you squat and you keep your back flat, your bottom is going to naturally stick out like a duck. So you can say that to yourself. Oh, that lady said I need to duck butt. It's okay if you remember me that way. That works. So that's what you want to do. You're going to hold it close and you're going to push with your legs. Now, another thing that you can do is as you come up, you can roll your hips under. That often helps some people. I do that a lot. Roll my hips. As I come up, I roll my hips under. So it's a stretch work and it can help your back stay safe. Sure I didn't miss anything. This is an example of how you can work smarter, not harder, okay? So when you're doing this, if you're doing this on a bed with somebody, one of the ways you can do it is to make sure that you get up on the bed so you're closer. You can lower the bed, you can raise the bed. Getting up and getting in your space, whatever you're moving in your space. Not this. Don't want to be reaching over. You want to get it. Thank you. I'm sorry. Another visual of that same process. Slide is out of order, but let's talk about it now. This is a quote from an occupational therapist who is one of the founding mothers of my career in occupational therapy. And she said, man through the use of his hands, as they are energized by mind and will, can influence the state of his own health. Now, we've probably all experienced that. If you are doing things that you find value in, you feel better about it. Bathe yourself, if you can dress yourself, you feel better about what's happening to you. But by doing those things, you can actually heal the task that you're trying to do. You can get better at it. So this is just a core principle of occupational therapy, but it's real world. It's for all of us. When we are engaged in things that are of value to us, it improves our outlook, similar to what our keynote speaker was talking about. Same kind of idea. Tool number one was duck butt. They're going to lift properly, right? Tool number two. Our physical health when we are a caregiver is very, very, very important. If you are weak, if you are unwell, then you can't be the type caregiver that your loved one might need. And I see this happen. I see a lot of caregivers who struggle with physically and emotionally getting burned out, or they're just physically unwell because of the stress and the toll of caregiving. That's why events like this are so helpful, because the hope is that you're learning and finding resources that can help. But one of the key elements for physical wellness is leg strength. When you are lifting, you're not using your, I mean, you are using your arms, but not in the same way that you're using your legs. Your legs and your bottom are the biggest muscle groups in our body, but they also can get weak pretty quickly. Sitting a lot is, you know, you've heard probably some saying about sitting is the new whatever that's awful. And it is kind of true. The more you, the weaker that your legs become. And when you're caregiving, having strong legs is very, very important. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you a quick little strategy for that as well. And we've all heard stories about, or the doctor has recommended, walking is the best thing you can do, right? Walking is one of the best things you can do. I totally agree. But this exercise can help with other things. So if you're going to walk, walking is helping your endurance. If you're walking fast enough, you might have some improvement in your cardio health. Walking helps to lubricate your joints. It helps do all kinds of things. It sends all kinds of good things through your brain for mood. It helps relieve stress. It helps keep us brighter and focused. But it doesn't help us lift. Those are not the muscles that you're using for lifting. So lifting, this is an exercise for lifting. You just do this. Simple little sit to squat. And when you do, you don't have to come all the way up, just a little bit. And now when you do it, I want you to squeeze your bottom muscles. And suddenly it's like a little turbo boost. Get up off the chair just a little bit easier, right? Get you tired. Bad knees. Yes, this will not, this probably, I can't say it won't. This probably will not be too harmful for your knees because you're going to strengthen your quad muscles. Yeah. These muscles and the muscles along the back of your legs. Okay. This is safer than a squat, and it works more than a squat. And then when you give a little turbo boost, you'll feel leaning over the bed to help somebody do that. Squeeze those muscles. So that's tool number 2. Tai Chi, which is something that VPAS offers classes in, which is really awesome. There's evidence that shows that Tai Chi helps. So it's not just, you know, anecdotal, it's real stuff. And then there are also, you can Google seated chair exercises, and there are all kinds of seated chair videos that you can watch that help with these same type things with leg strength. Number 3, fall prevention. Has a little conference next Wednesday, workshop on fall prevention. So if you haven't signed up, check that out. It'll be a lot of fun. It's going to be at the Lucy Sims School in Harrisonburg. So with fall prevention, we often look at things in your environment that might be trip hazards. The big one, edges of carpet, the kinds of shoes that you wear, all kinds of things can be a trip hazard. Lighting. As we get older, our eyes do not adjust as well to light. And not only do they not adjust as well, but our vision gets dimmer. It's just the nature of aging. So increasing lighting in your environment is really helpful. And what I see as a therapist often when I go into homes is folks are very frugal. We all should take lessons from folks who have lived through the Depression because we need to learn things about frugality. So folks are frugal. They have, maybe it's a big room, but there's only a 40-watt bulb in that lamp. And so it's dark and their vision is dimmer. So there are all kinds of increased fall risks because of lighting. So despite what sometimes I feel like I should say, I'm often encouraging people to add more lights. Night lights are wonderful, and you can get night lights that direct the light toward the floor. It doesn't have to light up the whole room. You really need a night light that illuminates where you're walking. They're very handy. And then clutter and small pets. Small pets are a fall risk. I've had lots of patients who have tripped over their little puppy or just a small dog. It doesn't have to be energetic like a puppy, but that can happen. Medications, if you've ever looked at one of your medication bottles, even on my medication bottle, may cause dizziness, do not operate heavy machinery, all these things. So it used to be that if you took 5 or more medications, you were at higher risk of falling. Now it's 2 because of interaction, how they work. So be very vigilant of your medications. Also, medications need to metabolize properly. So hydration is important. Hydration is important for our brain health and our alertness. If you've ever had a headache, you might think, oh, it's because I didn't drink enough water, or I haven't had anything to drink for several hours, or it was only that coffee. All I've had this morning is coffee. I need some water right now. You can kind of get a brain fog from poor hydration. So making sure that you have proper nutrition and hydration is important. Weakness, of course, it can cause imbalance, which is going to be improved because you're going to do these wonderful little chair exercises. Safety devices in your home. I see lots of suction cup grab bars in showers. It's not something that I recommend. And if you want options, we can talk about options later, but there are lots of options on the market. There are also all kinds of other things related to equipment and items that will fit in your home. Not all things are universal, but items that can fit in your home to help with fall prevention. And I mentioned shoes earlier. Some people tell me that they like to go barefoot, and I love to go barefoot. But unfortunately, as I age, it's going to be better for me to wear shoes. Shoes are better than socks. Socks can not only catch on the carpet, but they can be pretty slick on the hardwood floor. But a nice sturdy pair of shoes with a nice solid sole. And not all soles and shoes are made the same. So if you notice your loved one kind of catch their shoe on the carpet, change those shoes before fall happens. Just change them. If they have a favorite pair of shoes, I've had people that have searched high and low for that same kind of shoe. And so, because it's important to want the same shoe. And if you can find it, certainly by all means. There are also life alert systems that work. It used to be that they all had a base unit in your house that you had to talk to and that could talk to you. Now they don't have to be. There's some that's a fob. It's smaller than a cell phone, but it's not really little like a key car fob. It's not that small. And it works with a satellite. So like the cell phone tower kind of process. And you can talk into it and they can talk to you from the fob. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to be at home for your system to work. You can be someplace else in the fall or have an emergency. I had a lady who was visiting the grave of her husband and she fell in the cemetery. And she was not within the sight of the road, but because she had that type fob, she was able to get help. For a life alert system that can help. And I also recommend this not for necessarily your loved one that you're caring for, but if you are the caregiver, I recommend that you consider a fob for you. If you are outside mowing the yard, if you should have an accident carrying groceries in the house, your loved one may not perceive how much time has passed since they saw you last, and they may not be able to summon help for you. You having a fob, both of you having a fob, whatever combination, but don't think just the loved one needs it, okay? Just think about what would happen in case you were not available, something that happened to you. This is your third tool. This is a checklist that AARP offers for free. You can just Google AARP and you can find this very easily, but it's a checklist of things to look for in your home. Things that might be fall risks, be a hazard of some sort, and you can go right through it. Yes, it's a problem. No, it's not a problem. And if it is, then you can reach out to resources like VPAS, myself, and other local agencies that can help solve whatever the problem might be. So we've got duck butt, we've got squats, seated stands, I call them half stands, and an AARP checklist.
Do you remember where you found that on their website? What it was under?
I think you can probably, I don't remember exactly, AARP.org, home safety checklist. They have different checklists. There's lots of information.
It says caregiving checklist. I'm assuming if you put that in the search.
I feel certain that will get you there. Yeah. It didn't take me very long to find it, so. Number 4 is stress relief. Our keynote speaker spoke about this too. Sometimes it's our perceived stress. So if we could shift gears and make the stress lighthearted, see it from a different perspective, it can help. I have found are helpful to my patients. One is quality of sleep. When we don't rest, our day just doesn't go as well. And that's across all ages. There is a thing called sleep hygiene. That's a kind of a new terminology, sleep hygiene. We don't think of falling asleep or the act of what we do prior to sleep as being hygiene, but that's what they call it, sleep hygiene. So it means things like turning off your electronics 30 minutes before you want to sleep. It means things like maybe taking a warm bath, having some sleepy time tea, limiting your caffeine during the day, all of these kinds of things. There are also some breathing techniques that you can use for sleep hygiene. There are a couple that are recommended to actually say, hey, if you do this for so long before you sleep, you will sleep better. I've not tried them, but I have had people that tell me that they work. Regular physical activity. Now, none of us, there are some days, yes, with the pumpkin patch and other times of the year that I work hard enough outside that I'm ready to fall asleep at dark. But most of the year, that's not the case. I don't work that hard most of the year. So I have to be sure that I've got enough physical activity during the day that my body is ready for rest. And that's important. And there have been days that sometimes when my grand dog is busy, we haven't gone outside much because it's raining. So we walk the steps. We just comes up and down the steps chasing the ball and I follow. But doing something that helps with your physical activity so that you're at least a little bit tired is important. Nutrition, like I mentioned, reduce caffeine, all of the things that we know. Limiting sugar, having a healthy diet, well balanced, we need all those leafy greens and vegetables, fruit, all of those things. And also, as I mentioned, helps with metabolizing medication so that all things kind of stay in a stable state. Journaling and reflection. This is something that we've probably all heard about. And you all heard that journaling is really helpful. And I think that's true if you do it. I'm guilty of not always doing it and not doing it routinely. But it does help. And sometimes it's not necessarily about journaling bad things. It can be a great gratitude journal. And listing 5 things every day that you're grateful for, or 5 positive things, maybe 5 funny things. Positive self-talk. I am so nervous about this presentation tomorrow. I am not prepared. Things have happened. I just don't know how this is going to go. No, I've worked hard on this. I hope that I am led to share something that is helpful to people. I'm just going to trust that my work will pay off and this will go great. It's going to be a beautiful day. There's a difference there. So you can turn those things into something positive, and our brains respond to that. There is research-based evidence that shows our brains can change based on the things that we say, we tell ourselves. So that voice inside our own head, it's very, very important. Try to turn it into the positive. Finding a support group, friends, connections. There have been times in my life that I didn't share a single thing with anybody. It was stressful or worrisome to me. And those were not good times. And as soon as I did, it was just suddenly like, whoa, it's completely different. This amazing support. So the fact that you all, that's very positive. I encourage you to connect with VPAS as often as you can. And I keep pointing to Marissa. She works for VPAS. Vicki works for VPAS. The lady that introduced me works for VPAS. So we have VPAS folks in here. Activities that bring you joy. This is a hard one as a caregiver because we're so focused on the joy of our loved one. And we feel like maybe we're being selfish if we do something that brings us joy. But you have to find the things that bring you joy. It doesn't have to be, it could be going on a beach vacation if you have the opportunity to do that. For me, it's things like sitting on the back porch and just listening for 5 minutes. Or it's, like he mentioned, the funny thing in the parking garage. Finding some funny thing. It is out to see it, but it is there. but finding things that bring you joy. And sometimes it's hard because we've forgotten what those things are. We've just forgotten. They seem so far away. I recently have had to reconnect with things that bring me joy. So it's interesting to me to see the things that do that now that as compared to 15 or 20 years ago. It's fun. It's kind of a fun new drawer I've opened up and fun things are in there. So the last with stress relief is the thing that I want you to try. This is your tool. So I'll learn about these breathing techniques, right? And it seems just silly. And I thought it was silly until I actually started doing it. And once I started doing it, I was like, yeah, this isn't silly anymore. This stuff really works. When our keynote speaker talked about humor and turning a situation into humor, that is fantastic. And we should certainly strive to do that. But there are moments that stress happens and that thing happens and it's a visceral response. It's a response that our body just has and we can't turn it off. Our chest gets kind of tight. Our breathing gets really shallow. Our thoughts become something we're thinking of right here. We can't see this part. It's just right here. So this breathing technique will actually help reduce that natural visceral response that our body has. So right now in your mind, I want you to think about what is your stress level? Let's rate your stress level. Just pick a number for yourself between 1 and 5. 1 is no stress. 5 is you're really stressed out right now. Maybe you're thinking about what all is happening at home while you're not there. So pick your number. Pleasant image. Something that is relaxing to you, something that is pleasant, something that brings you joy, some place that you like to travel. Maybe it's the view from your porch. Maybe it's snuggling your dog, whatever it might be. I want you to think of that image. And then maybe a relaxing word. Maybe it's a relaxing mantra. And I'll share mine with you. 12 years ago, I had a tragedy in my life. And my friend, who is like my mother mentor, said to me, she shared with me what she says, and she would say to herself, the Lord is at hand. So that worked for me. So I would find myself, some days I said the Lord is at hand once a day. And some days I said the Lord is at hand every minute. Okay, so that space, right? So think of your image, think of your word, and I want you to close your eyes. Okay, everybody close your eyes. And I want you to breathe in through your nose while you're thinking of your word and seeing your image. Breathe in and hold it for 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Exhale through your mouth while you relax your shoulders and your arms. And let's do it one more time. With your eyes closed, breathe in through your nose. 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Exhale through your mouth. Relax your arms and shoulders. You can do it a third time. One more time. In through your nose, thinking of your word and your image. Hold your breath. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Exhale through your mouth. Relax your shoulders and your arms. Now, at that number, what was your stress number? Is it bit? Some of us feel a little bit different. Maybe even just a slight bit different. So even something simple like that. Now, the recommendation is, of course, 5 to 10 times, 5 to 8 times. You do it however it works for you. But that's a strategy that can work, and it can work in the moment. You can do this in the road rage lane on the highway, and nobody knows you're doing it.
But don't close your eyes.
Don't close your eyes. That's number 4. That's our tool number 4. Okay. This one is important. And I find that this one maybe helps the most. phrase. I'm going to teach you a couple of phrases. So I don't know the situations that you're in with the person that you're caring for, your loved one, whomever it might be. I don't know those situations. But I do know that in life, in all relationships, there are moments that things are just tense. There's stress between people. There could be comments made that are hurtful, and they bring up all this stuff. This emotional thing happens. And when that happens, nothing goes well. There's a moment that we just have to either take a time out, we count to 10, we breathe, whatever we do. But there are some phrases that can help. Now, some that don't help is, do you remember? That does not help. What are you doing? What are you doing? Whatever. And it happens late if we've not had good, if we're jacked up on coffee, if we've got all these other things going on, it can make it even worse. Coffee. But there's a phrases that can actually take that moment and completely turn them into something positive. And it's simply saying, I'm sorry. Now, it can't be, I am so sorry. It can't be that kind of sorry. I am so sorry. I know this is frustrating. I was only trying to help, but I made it worse. It's got to be genuine, and it will be genuine because you're going to say it to somebody that you're caring for and you care about them. But just saying that completely shifts the tone. People can't be really mad at you when you just apologize from your heart. That's a really unnatural thing to happen. We can't stay mad, but try it. And you can use whatever works for you. I'm sorry. I was trying to help. I'm sorry. I realized I made this worse. I'm sorry. This is so frustrating. Just call it what it is. Say what it is. And it can really, really help. So I hope, and that's not always natural. It just doesn't feel natural for whatever reason, but it works beautifully because it can be genuine. I encourage you to try it and practice in the bathroom mirror if you need to.
My husband's caregiver, how do you, and maybe I'm going off the page here a little bit, feeling like it's kind of working into these phrases. How do you deal with it when they lash out and you're the one that is there and my middle name is sensitive. So how do you take those words that are coming at you, which he doesn't mean to, but lashing out because he's so frustrated?
Yes, I understand your middle name is sensitive. Mine has been, don't bump yourself when you go out today because you'll get your feelings hurt. That kind of thing. So you bring up a really good question. And we all have asked ourselves that question. And each situation, I have to say, is a little bit different. But trying to not hear it as a personal statement, which is really, really hard to do because this is your husband. Trying to say things like, this is so frustrating for you. Trying to identify with the emotion that he is expressing, not necessarily your reaction to that emotion. You're going to have to react to that emotion, but not necessarily right then, right? But finding a way to let him know that you are feeling the same frustration that he's experiencing, and it's okay. By saying, I realize this is so frustrating for you. I'm so sorry. I can't make this better. The voice sometimes can be the thing that changes. But we can talk later. Maybe as we talk, I can come up with some other ideas for you. Because just tried that has helped.
Anti-anxiety medicine helped my husband. We didn't tell him what it was, and we took 2 to get there, but that really helped him become who he used to be. He was so angry all the time.
Yeah.
I think remembering that,
You know, and as hard as it is not to take it personally, because
in the evenings.
First time.
That's called sundowning. And you can give them medication.
He is on medication. He takes it when he goes to sleep. He's on the anxiety medicine.
My
Sleep,
husband
so-
takes his at dinner time.
Yeah. We do one in the so good.
Yeah,
We do
so
one.
there are
morning,
some
one evening.
options, and those are all great suggestions.
Thank you.
They're very good suggestions. Our next tool, call this a plan of action. There's gonna be a plan of action for your loved one and a plan of action for you. So for some of us dealing with things, we have loved ones who maybe rummage, or they get into things, we call it getting into things. They need to be busy. They need that first foot from the therapist. Having the will to do things is very important. That never goes away. We want to constantly be doing things. We just have to be kind of facilitated and directed into the place that something is positive. So having activity boxes at different places. I had an example recently that was shared with a gentleman who would often get up in the evening during sundowning time and leave the house, go out the door. Well, from his recliner, there. So the door, I need to go. Well, when they shifted the recliner, there's no door over here. And suddenly the wandering stopped. So noticing what might be happening, putting things in certain places, having maybe activity, we often will use a shoebox or some kind of a bin in different rooms or different places in the rooms that have things there that are important. Maybe there's nuts and bolts. Maybe there are coloring books. Maybe there's something else, maybe recipe box. Maybe there are old pictures. Maybe there's a puzzle. So as somebody's busy throughout the day, they can find things to do. An activity box, different places, sometimes in different rooms, sometimes lots in the same room. Socialization, still socializing regardless of what is happening to us is really, really important. I have a family that I worked with, and the wife was able to organize a schedule of her husband's friends that came back. And 3 days a week, somebody just came. And it was beautiful because sometimes they would go for a car ride, sometimes they would walk down the street, sometimes they would just play music, sometimes they would sit on the porch and talk. But these friends that were familiar came on a schedule. Every Thursday was the same person. And it worked beautifully. She got a break, her spouse got socialization in a nice, positive, encouraging way with somebody that was familiar. We all need those. So allowing our loved one, maybe they can't write the checks and pay the bills anymore, but they can put the checks in the envelopes to mail while you're writing the checks. You can work alongside one another. Maybe there's not something that they can do completely independently. So they do part of it and you finish, or you start and they finish. Something purposeful and meaningful to them. And then a hobby buddy. Some of us ladies like to quilt, and we can't do that by ourselves anymore. So our buddy comes and quilts with us. I had a gentleman who loved woodworking, and he had a beautiful woodworking shop. He couldn't be in there safely anymore. Found somebody with woodworking skills that would come. And I think that person came once a month, and they would spend the whole afternoon in the woodworking shop. So finding hobby buddies.
Just add something real quick.
Certainly.
You're talking about their activity boxes, and depending on their stage of dementia or Alzheimer's, whatever it is. So like even I can do a jigsaw puzzle. Doesn't mean that they couldn't do 36 pieces, but they have them for adults. You know, you can look on. Even just taking a picture out of a magazine and cutting it up in probably can't do the 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzles anymore, so
Very good
accept that.
point. That's very true. And there are websites that you can Google. You can Google activities for whatever it might be. It's really interesting, creative. can plan for you. So knowing ahead of time what your loved one's wishes are for all kinds of things. There's a gentleman that I know and that some of you may know who is keeping a journal of how he gets dressed. Because he's anticipating that sometimes somebody might need to know if he likes to put his sock on and then that shoe, or both socks and then shoes. And if you maybe are the caregiver who doesn't do it the way it's good for him, it could cause some anxiety, some upset, some behaviors. So knowing things ahead of time, and it doesn't have to be for just ADL or personal care kinds of things. It could be for, what are my wishes? What do I really like to eat? Soothing, because maybe we're going to need that at some point. It can be all kinds of things. In a crisis is never a good time to make a decision. It doesn't feel good. It adds stress to whatever is happening. Having helpers and caregivers that you can call on, and these would be people that are probably next door, not in another state. So in the emergency, hey, can you come over? Can you run over? Can you go check that for me? I think something may be just happening. And then also the people that can come help and give you some respite care. Be the social buddy, the hobby buddy, the person that comes and hangs out a little bit. Planning and having a place to keep information about medications, about your care team, about community resources, advanced directives, insurance and finances. These are all kinds of things that you can plan. I have put these here, but this, I didn't take time to put the tabs, I just printed it. This was created by a therapist. She's a friend of mine. She lives out in Washington State. There are lots of options for this on the market, so I'm not trying to sell you hers. I want to point out hers because I think it has some really good features. One of the most important that I think is in here is a list about previous level of function. How is your loved one doing? So if you have to go to the hospital, or they have had a fall and they leave the hospital and they go to the nursing facility for therapy, who's going to know how they work? Nobody's going to know. But if you understand, hey, this is the way they work. The groggy, medicated person in pain right now, or with an infection whose cognition has changed, is not the way we normally present. There's somebody else in there. And that's what we want to heal back to. That's where we want to go. So without this, they may not know that. There's also a page in here that is a great checklist for keeping a bag handy, things you might need to grab if you're going to the hospital or you need to call 911. So medication list is in here. There's also a sheet that you can organize or log your blood sugars, blood pressures, any falls. So this is at my table if you want to come look at it later. But that's it. Are we on time, Marissa?
About 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay. I can do this in 10 minutes. Gizmos and gadgets. This is one of my favorites. And so we have lots of gizmos and gadgets here and some others on my but medication dispensers. Medication dispensers that you've seen, the ones that are a week, 2 weeks, a month. They have all kinds. Maybe there's AM, PM. There might be breakfast, lunch, dinner, bedtime. They're organized in all kinds of ways. There are also some that are electronic. So you're like me, you can't remember if you took your medicine. Or maybe as my mother, she takes her medication, but then she may forget that she took it and take it again. So the electronic ones are really good because you can program them to alert when it's time to take a medication. And then if you don't open that little compartment soon enough and take your medication, it locks it so you can't take it. You can't take it later. So you can't take them too close.
Wow.
It can be very helpful. It's not for everybody, but it can be very helpful. Motion sensing night lights is a really good one. Like I mentioned earlier, ones that shine the light to the floor, but the ones that just turn on when you walk past are really nice too. Still not, which I did not bring in to show you. If you stop by my table and you maybe saw a little gadget that has a cup of water, a mug, it looks like it's full of water sitting on it. This is called a spill knot, and you can carry it, and your coffee will not spill. Your food will not splash out of the bowl. So if you are the person who likes to carry your coffee from the kitchen to the chair, but you're walking with a cane or you have a walker and you're not stable and your wife or your husband is fussing at you for spilling it on the floor, this gizmo might help you. You can also attach these to walkers, so you can sit your coffee on there and you can go where you need to go and it will not spill. It's made, it's science.
Where did you get that?
I saw about 10 years ago, and a gentleman was walking around with it, swinging it everywhere, and I stuck my finger in it because I thought, that's gotta be acrylics. Right? Flower vases, but it wasn't, it was liquid. But you can order one. I can tell you when I'm at my table, spillknot.com or thespillknot.com, I think it is. A hair wash board. This is a hair wash board. So if you can't stand in the shower or you don't maybe shower, you're sponge bathing, but you want to wash your hair, you can sit in a chair and lean into your sink. Water will go right down into the sink and use stuff for somebody to help you. That's what a hair wash board is. Does that make sense? Gadget. And there's a thermal beverage cup. I'm going to show you that here. This is for folks who tend to not drink enough. I actually can benefit from one of these. At 8 a.m., it says, let's go. At 9 a.m., it says, keep going. At 10 a.m., a little more. 11, getting close. At noontime, you made it. You refill it. And you do the same thing for the afternoon. You can get bottles with this already on, or you can get labels printed and put it on your own bottle. Some people just use a marker. They buy a plain bottle and they use a Sharpie. You can write it on there. The picture on the left is what the electronic medication dispenser can look like. It's one version. Command center. So someplace in your house is your command center. It can help you stay organized, but it can also help loved ones what's happening during the day, where they might need to be, what they might need to prepare for. It can help eliminate some questions that you might get asked over and over, because they can learn to direct and go see that for themselves and feel empowered that they can look for themselves. It needs to be clear, it needs to be organized, it needs to be free of clutter. It can't be a calendar with notes on each square and lots of sticky notes on there too. That probably is not going to help you. But a command center somewhere is often useful. Tools today. We learned about duck bunny. We learned about the little half stand. We've got an AARP checklist. We did a breathing strategy. We learned about a phrase that can help de-escalate, an organizational notebook, and some gizmos and gadgets. The quote that I think is perfect. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's our greatest measure of courage. You all have been very vulnerable coming today, sharing with us things that are on your heart and that's happening in your world. And I think that takes great courage. I applaud you. Caregiving is not easy. It is not easy. Yes, we have all of the on, right? A little chocolate might help. Folks like VPAS will help. I hope I can help. Our speaker can help. The other folks at the other booths can help. So hopefully we can take the grouches away. I don't have any chocolate off. Thank you very much. Later, if you'd like to do that as well. What? You've been great.
For you. Thank you so much for coming and being part of our program.
Thank you.
I figured that.
Oh, no, he's pretty cool. He's still right.
But only in and like we
I
all
don't know,
read
that's why I like it.
Right.
since we had him.
Amy, what was that last statement? Vulnerability is not weakness, it's our greatest.
This was just in the radio.
Treasure and courage.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he has a doctor.
Whatever's-
He has a doctor.
Whatever's-